So I want you to picture the most terrifying, just destructive force in modern sports history.
Right, a guy whose very name was basically synonymous with raw, unfiltered violence.
Exactly. The guy who walked to the ring with no socks, no robe, just that ominous sound of a single looping bass note.
It's iconic.
It is. But now take that exact same person, right, and put him in a meticulously tailored Italian silk suit, stand him inside a rooftop pigeon coop, and just listen to him quote ancient Greek philosophers while he's petting a bird.
Yeah, it completely shatters any mental model you might have of who this person is supposed to be. I mean, you are looking at a living, breathing paradox.
You really are. And welcome to today's deep dive. We are looking at a man who defies, honestly, every single category you try to put him in. Mike Tyson.
It's a fascinating subject.
It's wild. And our source material for this deep dive is a remarkably raw live interview from Theo Von's show.
Which is such a great, revealing format for him.
It really is. So the mission for us today is not to recount boxing statistics, or look at his title defenses. We are digging into the psychology of extreme discipline.
Right, the sheer mechanics of surviving unimaginable fame.
Yeah, and how a human being actually overcomes a past that is, frankly, engineered to destroy them.
And I think to really grasp the philosophy of the man today, you have to understand the sheer, unadulterated chaos of his foundation.
Right.
We aren't talking about, just a rough neighborhood. He describes his childhood environment as a literal house of crime.
A house of crime. Wow.
Yeah. His mother was a sex worker. He had no bedroom. I mean, he literally slept on the floor.
Jesus.
But the detail from the source material that serves as the psychological anchor for his entire life is the fact that his mother was physically incapable of even looking at him.
That detail is staggering. I mean, when a parent cannot even look at their child, that breaks the most fundamental baseline for human connection, doesn't it?
It really does.
A child learns they exist by being looked at.
Exactly. It is a textbook example of severe, compounded, intergenerational trauma. Tyson casually mentions that his mother's own father used to pass food to her under a closed door.
Wait, really? Under a door?
Yeah, he would refuse to speak to her for months at a time. He'd climb in and out of the house through a window just to avoid any interaction.
That's unimaginable.
It is. That level of profound neglect shatters a person's neurological capacity to form healthy attachments. So his mother was so trapped in her own unhealed, deep-seated trauma that she simply could not provide basic maternal affection or even acknowledge her son's presence.
And that profound neglect manifests in a story that, honestly, it completely reframes Tyson's entire public persona.
Oh, the pigeon coop story.
Yeah, so he's 11 years old, right? He's been hanging around these older guys in the neighborhood, helping them build a rooftop pigeon coop.
Yeah.
And because he has absolutely zero guidance at home, he literally doesn't know how to wash himself.
Right, because his mother's idea of bathing him was just like wiping him down with a soapy washcloth.
Exactly. So he's 11, covered in roofing tar, covered in bird droppings, and these older guys take him to a local neighborhood dance.
And he walks into an absolute social slaughterhouse.
Yeah.
The entire room turns, points, and ruthlessly mocks this unwashed kid. And Tyson says he started laughing along with them just to survive the moment, but inside he was completely broken.
It's the moment the invisible child suddenly becomes hyper-visible, but as a monster, or a punchline.
Exactly. And that public humiliation is the crucible of his entire psychological makeup.
Right.
For a child who already feels unloved and unseen at home, being spectacularly humiliated in public forces this massive survival pivot. He decided in that exact moment that he would never, ever be laughed at for his appearance again.
Never again.
It birthed a lifelong, intense obsession with clothing.
And you see that obsession in the interview itself. He's sitting there wearing Stefano Ricci.
Looking incredibly sharp.
Super sharp. And he even admits that his initial foray into a life of crime wasn't about surviving hunger. It was literally to afford luxury clothes. He jokes that there's something respectable about a well-dressed criminal.
I mean, it's overcompensation forged into armor.
Yeah.
He took the specific vulnerability that caused his deepest shame, his physical appearance, and turned it into an impenetrable shield.
It's almost like Tyson had all this raw, explosive energy born out of that humiliation, but it was entirely unchanneled. It was volatile, like raw iron ore.
That's a great way to put it.
Right. He didn't just need a boxing coach. He needed a ruthless blacksmith. He needed a mold, a container that could withstand the heat of his anger.
And that container was Cus D'Amato.
Exactly. Cus legally adopts Tyson out of juvenile detention, and what he gives him isn't just boxing technique. He gives him unyielding, absolute structure.
Because Cus was a World War II veteran, and he ran his life and his gym with the exact mindset of a military theater.
Total discipline.
Right. The individual is completely subjugated to the mission. There is a story Tyson tells about going to a school dance. Cus realizes the taxi's going to be late picking Tyson up, and the dance is 3 miles away.
Oh, I love this story.
Instead of letting him wait 10 minutes, Cus makes this teenager run all the way home 3 miles in his dress shoes.
Just clicking down the street in dress shoes, it's so crazy. But the discipline didn't stop when Tyson achieved success.
Not at all.
Even when Tyson was the heavyweight champion of the world, a massive global star on the cover of Sports Illustrated, Cus made him sweep and mop the gym floor every single day after the photographers left.
We really need to look at the psychological utility of that mop. Cus understood that when you build a human weapon, the greatest danger isn't the opponent across the ring.
What is it then?
It is the narcissism that infects the mind when you acquire unchecked power. Sweeping a floor is a physical ritual of submission. It tethers the ego to reality.
Wow. Yeah.
It communicates, you may be a god to the cameras out there, but in this room, you are subservient to the work.
But Cussa eventually dies, and that mold is broken. Suddenly, that weapon is fully forged, completely untethered, and just unleashed onto the world.
With no safety net.
Right. Tyson is swallowed by the absolute madness of ultimate fame. And he develops this fascinating obsession with historical conquerors. He starts obsessively studying Alexander the Great, Hannibal, Achilles.
But he wasn't studying their battlefield maneuvers.
No.
He was studying their psychological unraveling.
Yeah.
He explicitly notes in the interview that Alexander the Great's ultimate downfall was not a superior opposing army. It was his sheer inability to control his own moods.
Okay, but wait, let me push back on that a little bit.
Sure.
Because comparing yourself to Alexander the Great seems like a fast track to a massive god complex. I mean, if you are a 20-something kid with infinite money and the ability to knock out any human on Earth, and you spend your free time identifying with historical demigods, aren't you completely detaching from reality?
Well, it is a dangerous tightrope, for sure. And Tyson admits that there were periods where he genuinely believed he was a god because society treats you like one when you hold that much power.
I mean, yeah, they do.
But his focus on their flaws, their emotional volatility, reveals a surprisingly deep self-awareness. He was mapping his own internal minefield.
Oh, that makes sense.
He recognized his own moods were just as volatile as Alexander's. He was watching history to see what happens when that level of emotional instability collides with absolute unchecked power.
And the universe has an incredibly ironic way of checking that god complex, honestly.
It really does.
You contrast his internal monologue about Alexander the Great with the absurdist comedy of his real-life celebrity encounters. So Tyson is the newly crowned heavyweight champion, right?
Yeah.
He is the most feared, famous man walking the earth.
The biggest star on the planet.
Yeah. And he goes backstage at a Michael Jackson concert expecting this grand meeting of cultural titans. He walks up to Michael, and Michael just looks at him and asks, "Where do I know you from?"
It is the ultimate puncture to the reality bubble.
Tyson was furious. He thought Michael was playing these hyper-competitive mind games. He held a grudge for years, only to later realize Michael was just painfully shy, lived in a completely isolated bubble himself, and genuinely had no idea who the heavyweight champion of the world was.
And that interaction perfectly illustrates the illusion of centrality that fame creates.
The illusion of centrality.
Yeah, you are convinced you are the sun and everyone else is just orbiting you. Then you step into someone else's solar system and you are entirely invisible.
Man, that's such a good point. And the surreal nature of his reality didn't stop there. He tells the story of going through a divorce, pulling up to his ex-wife's house, and catching a pre-fame Brad Pitt in the driveway trying to hook up with her.
Just a wild scenario.
Brad didn't even have his own car at the time. She was driving him around. The visual of an unknown actor freezing in the headlights as a prime enraged Mike Tyson walks up is pure comedy.
Oh, absolutely terrifying for Brad, I'm sure.
Oh, for sure. Or, Whitney Houston bringing her entire family to visit him while he's locked up in a prison in Indiana. It's a completely distorted existence.
It is. Because when your daily normal consists of Don King, Michael Jackson not recognizing you, and cornering Hollywood actors in driveways, your connection to standard human experience evaporates.
You're just living on Mars at that point.
Basically, you are surrounded by people, but you are profoundly, dangerously isolated. And that specific type of isolation, where no one tells you no and everyone wants something from you, is the perfect incubator for severe addiction.
And there is an incredible paradox here, because Tyson is now 9 years sober, which is a massive achievement.
Huge.
But looking back, he laughs about the fact that he never had the discipline to be a drug dealer because he would just consume his entire supply.
Right.
How does a man who trained 8 hours a day, who willingly swept floors after being on magazine covers, have absolutely zero internal brakes when it comes to narcotics?
Well, it comes down to the difference between an external and an internal locus of control.
Okay, break that down.
Tyson had limitless, world-class discipline, but only within the physical and psychological boundaries that Cus D'Amato engineered for him.
Ah, the container.
Exactly. Cus was his external exoskeleton. When Cus died and the fame hit, that exoskeleton vanished. He had never been taught how to self-regulate.
So he was just free-falling.
Completely. The extremity that allowed him to endure brutal physical training was the exact same extremity that made him an absolutist as an addict. He wanted to obliterate his own consciousness. He literally says in the interview, anything that got me out of me, I liked.
Wow. And the stories from that era of his life are harrowing, but he frames them with this pitch-black humor now. The rehab betrayal is a perfect example of this.
That story is incredible.
It really is. So Tyson decides he wants to get clean. He goes to a rehab center. He has a final stash of cocaine in his pocket, and he makes the conscious choice to be a good guy.
Which is a big deal.
Right. He hands his last stash over to the rehab intake worker as a gesture of surrender.
It's a massive psychological step for an addict. It is a tangible act of trust and, vulnerability.
But the next time he sees that intake worker, the guy is acting incredibly shifty and erratic. And Tyson instantly realizes this healer stole his cocaine and got high on his supply.
And you can just imagine his reaction.
Tyson was enraged, not even because he was craving the drug, but because the sheer hypocrisy of the situation violated his rare attempt at doing the right thing.
The fact that Tyson uses dark humor to recount this now is a critical survival mechanism.
Yeah, I agree.
When you survive severe trauma and addiction, finding the absurdity in your darkest moments prevents the weight of those memories from crushing you. If you cannot laugh at the sheer tragic comedy of a rehab worker stealing a heavyweight champion's cocaine, the reality of that betrayal would eat you alive.
The absurdity protected him in other ways, too. Like, he tells a story about taking a drug test with his probation officer that accidentally flagged him for crack cocaine. Yeah, Tyson is internally panicking, bracing for the end of his freedom. But the probation officer just looks at him, shakes his head and says, "Nah, I know what a tweaker looks like, and you don't look like a tweaker. This is a false positive."
Oh, unbelievable.
He clears him on the spot, purely based on vibes.
Psychologists actually call that the halo effect.
Really?
Yeah, it is a cognitive bias where one positive or overwhelming trait, in this case, Tyson's mythic physical presence and athleticism, blinds people to other obvious traits.
Oh, that makes total sense.
The probation officer just couldn't reconcile the image of the invincible Mike Tyson with the image of a desperate addict, so his brain simply rejected the empirical evidence of the drug test.
Wow.
It shows how the public myth literally kept him out of jail, but it also enabled him to live terrifyingly close to the edge.
And he nearly fell off that edge during the fake news death incident.
The story is so intense.
It is wild. A news report circulated claiming Mike Tyson had died of a drug overdose at a party. His wife and his mother-in-law are thrown into sheer panic. They are frantically calling morgues, checking hospitals, just weeping over his death.
Go through total agony.
Exactly. And then the front door swings open. In walks Tyson, high, drunk, and entirely alive. His wife experiences this massive wave of relief, which instantly morphs into such sheer blinding fury that she physically attacks him right there in the entryway.
I mean, that moment is the perfect distillation of the collateral damage of addiction.
Right.
The addict often believes they're in a solitary struggle, just trying to escape their own painful mind. But their altered reality crashes violently into the literal reality of the people who love them. He was treating his life like a disposable game, while his family was living in a daily psychological morgue.
That's a powerful way to put it. And, you would assume a billionaire athlete with the world at his fingertips finds peace on a private island or in a luxury compound.
Sure, that's what we think.
But Tyson claims his ultimate sanctuary, the only place he actually found quiet, was literally the opposite of luxury. He found it in prison.
Specifically, in solitary confinement. The hole.
The hole. He talks about the lights being on 24 hours a day for weeks at a time.
Yeah. Solitary confinement provided the one thing he hadn't had since Cus D'Amato died, an absolute rigid structure that he could not manipulate, bribe, or charm his way out of.
So it was a new container.
Exactly. It stripped away the sensory overload of his life. There were no enablers to hand him drugs, no cameras to perform for, no yes men validating his worst impulses.
Just him.
Just him. And Tyson makes a profound observation about human nature here. He knows that most people cannot stand to be in their own presence. Solitary forced him to finally sit in his own presence without any chemical, social, or physical escape hatches.
And that need for a structure you cannot manipulate seems to be exactly what he eventually built in his own home today. I mean, he survived the fame, the addiction, the prison, and the ego, and he credits his current stability entirely to his wife, Kiki.
He affectionately calls her his defender and his tiger.
He makes it very clear that she runs the empire now. He says he doesn't move a muscle at home without her say-so. She even wrote and produced a live one-man show about his darkest, most shameful past.
Which is incredible.
It takes a highly specific, fiercely secure partner to not just tolerate your past demons, but to help you stand on a stage and turn them into a theatrical monologue.
It really is an act of radical acceptance.
Yeah.
She isn't asking him to bury his scars or pretend the ugly parts of his history didn't happen. She's helping him contextualize them.
Right, owning them.
Exactly. By putting those demons on a stage, he claims power over them. And that acceptance has allowed Tyson to reach some incredibly profound realizations about the necessity of his own suffering.
Which brings us to his philosophy on comfort, which I think is so relevant for everyone. He states point blank in the interview that if he had grown up with a stereotypical, comfortable, loving childhood, he would have been, and I quote, the heavyweight bitch of the world.
It is a stark, uncomfortable acknowledgement. The exact trauma that nearly destroyed him, the mother who wouldn't look at him, the humiliation in the pigeon coop, was the exact fuel required to build his greatness. He recognizes that comfort breeds complacency.
Yes.
Without the profound suffering, he never would have sought out the extreme, punishing discipline required to become a world champion.
But there is a massive generational dilemma nested in that realization, right? Because he knows comfort breeds weakness, yet he is giving his own children an incredibly privileged life. They have the best schools, the best homes, the best opportunities.
Of course.
So how does he reconcile knowing that suffering creates champions, but wanting to protect his kids from suffering?
His compromise is demanding absolute, unwavering gratitude. He acknowledges they have a great life, but he insists they have absolutely no right to ever complain about anything.
That makes sense.
If they do, they need to remember who their grandfather was, passing food under a door, and where their father started, covered in tar on a roof. He is trying to manually instill the perspective that his trauma forced upon him.
And it fundamentally reshapes how he defines discipline today. It's no longer about doing push-ups or running 3 miles in dress shoes. His modern definition of discipline is doing what you hate to do, but doing it like you love it.
I love that. The emphasis is on the performance of love toward the struggle.
And for you listening, I want you to really examine that in the context of your own life. So often, you wait for motivation. You wait to feel inspired to do the hard work, to hit the gym, to have that difficult conversation with your boss, to grind through a tedious project.
We're waiting for the feeling.
Exactly. But Tyson is saying that waiting to love the process is a trap. Discipline is the active performance of love toward the things you despise doing. How often do you let the desire to be comfortable get in the way of achieving your own greatness?
It completely reframes resistance. If you act like you love the struggle loses its psychological power over you.
And he's even applied that stoic reframing to the concept of aging and death. Most of society is terrified of getting older, right? We fight it constantly. But Tyson looks at aging as a new adventure.
He views the biological breakdown of the body as a merciful preparation designed by the universe. We slowly lose our hair, our teeth fall out, our joints ache, our friends pass away.
It sounds depressing when you list it out.
It does. But he argues this isn't a sudden, cruel tragedy. It's a gradual detachment process. The universe slowly makes life less comfortable so that by the time death arrives, you are ready to let go and move on to the next adventure.
Wow.
If you view life as a gift, he argues, how could the natural conclusion of it be a curse?
To track the arc of a kid laughed at in a pigeon coop, to a terrifying human weapon, to a man discussing the spiritual utility of losing your teeth, It is an unbelievable human journey.
Truly one of a kind.
But there is one final, incredibly powerful piece of wisdom hidden in this source material that we haven't touched on yet.
And it might be the single most important lesson Cus D'Amato ever imparted to him.
Yeah. Cus taught a 12-year-old Mike Tyson a rigid rule about how he was allowed to talk to himself. He said, never say anything negative about yourself because your subconscious doesn't know if you're playing or not.
Think about the sheer psychological weight of that mechanism. Your subconscious mind is always listening, always recording, and it completely lacks a sense of irony or sarcasm.
Right.
It processes everything you say as a direct command or a fundamental statement of fact.
So if you make a mistake at work and you mutter under your breath, "Ah, I'm such an idiot," or you look in the mirror before leaving the house and joke, "I look terrible today," you might think you're just venting, or being charmingly self-deprecating.
But your subconscious is taking notes. It is quietly building a reality and a self-image based entirely on those exact words.
If the most physically feared, dangerous man on the planet understood that his own mind was too fragile to tolerate negative self-talk, what do you think your casual internal dialogue is doing to your potential right now?
It's a great question.
I want to leave you with that exact challenge. Examine your own internal monologue today. Are you casually destroying your own confidence with jokes about your inadequacies? It's time to be as disciplined with your words as a heavyweight champion is with his fists.
Yeah.
The next time you think about putting yourself down, remember the kid from the pigeon coop who put on a silk suit, changed his internal narrative, and conquered the world.
Because your subconscious is always listening. You owe it to yourself to make sure it's hearing a champion.